Hello friends, welcome to Savannah Knits. This is my knitting podcast where I talk all about the things that I'm knitting that are bringing me joy. My name is Savannah and I live in Utah in the United States. And thank you so much for being here. I also like to ask a question of the day during my episode so I can get to know you as the viewer more. So today's question is, when do you do most of your knitting? Do you do it in the evening or the morning, weekends or weekdays? I'm curious. So comment below when you do most of your knitting, or you can tell me what project you're working on, anything like that. I'd love to get to know you guys more. Today, our podcast episode has 3 finished objects, all of which are accessories, and then I have 3 works in progress. And I think that that's it. I don't have any acquisitions or really any plans that are anything new from my 2025 Make 9 and knitting goals video. You can check that out. I posted it last week if you want to know more of my knitting plans in the future. But yeah, today we're just gonna go through and I have a ton to talk about. I have been knitting so much in the past 2 weeks, partly because we were sick one week, so we were having a lot of downtime, and then this last week I injured my back, so again, more downtime, which honestly was a blessing in disguise a little bit because it has been really nice to slow down, spend a lot of time knitting. And especially after the crazy busy season of the holidays, I think we all just really needed a couple weeks of being really chill and taking things slow and enjoying lots of movies and cuddles and all of that good stuff. Let's start with finished objects. The first thing I made are the birthday cupcake socks by Charlotte Stone. These are in her book, Joyful Colorwork Socks. She also goes by Stone Knits. I did a size 2, I think, yes, which is a 64 stitch cast on. I used a 2.25 millimeter needle, 2.75 millimeter for the colorwork, and then the yarn that I used, if you watched my last podcast episode, and one's in December, you would know that my mom gifted me the yarn for my birthday. She went to a yarn store and picked out all of the colors with one of the employees because she saw me talking about these socks on my podcast, so that was very nice. So yeah, here they are. The yarn that I used is Cascade Heritage in Snow, and then all of the different colors are all Universal Yarn Uni Merino. The pink is Romance, the blue is Sea Glass, and the red is Red Wagon. And they don't look especially nice because I've worn these quite a bit and they've already been through the wash, so they are a little bit crinkly. I absolutely love how these turned out. I love in Charlotte Stone's patterns that she has you increase the amount of stitches before you work the colorwork portion, as well as size up a needle size, so that it makes sure that it fits your foot, because I know that's a common issue with colorwork socks, is if it's going to fit with the colorwork portion being a little bit tighter. So I really liked that, and I think I may continue that throughout all of my colorwork socks, even if I'm doing a pattern not by Charlotte Stone. For example, I do the Colorwork Cuff Club by Summerlee, and she doesn't have you increase stitches, and I found that to be very stressful to try to knit loose to make sure that they'll fit me. But if I just increase a bunch of stitches to maybe the next size up, I think that would help a lot. And it honestly makes it a lot squishier right here. It just has more room to breathe and more squish, and I really like how it turned out. So yeah, here is both of them together. They look so good. Absolutely love the colors. I love this detail on the toe, this color work. Man, these socks are so dirty. I washed them, but I wore them yesterday. So excuse the little bits of wood and fluff on them. Even with sizing up for the color work and sizing up stitches and needle size, I still, on one of them, one of the floats is too tight. There is a part when you're doing 3-stranded color work along here, this middle part, and there's just one white stitch in between the cupcakes. And the first time I did it, I did not stretch that white float enough. I can still get it over my foot, but sometimes it does get stuck and requires much wiggling to get it on, but it still is wearable and I'm fine with that. This was also my first time doing 3-stranded color work, and it was not as bad as I thought. It was definitely finicky, and I wouldn't want to do it for a long period of time, but for just the couple rows that I had to do it in this, it was far preferable for me to do that instead of duplicate stitch. I do not like doing duplicate stitch. It just means more ends to weave in, and I really struggle with doing something after the fact. When I finish a knitted item, I just want to be done, and I don't want to go back and like fix things or duplicate stitch or buttons or anything like that. I just want to be done. So I chose to do 3-stranded color work, and yeah, it wasn't bad at all. And I think I would do that in the future for socks as well. I mean, if there's only a couple of places I need to do a duplicate stitch, that would make more sense than 3-stranded color work. But for a whole entire row with a lot of the, you know, cupcake coming down and the wrapper of the cupcake coming up, I much would have rather done 3-stranded color work for that portion. I will say that I used Charlotte Stone's pattern from here to the end of the color work, and then I just did my own sock recipe from Summer Lee that I like to do. She does have a slightly different method of doing things, and I just was too lazy to figure out how she does it, so I just did my own basic heel flap and gusset that I'm used to, and the foot and the toe how I'm used to. I did obviously follow her pattern on the color work at the toe. As I've said, I get a lot of wear out of these. I love these. They make me very happy whenever I put them on. They're so cute and unique, and I can't wait to wear them more. I started these on December 20th and finished them on January 7th. So these socks took 2 weeks and 4 days. So yeah, these are the birthday cupcake socks. My next finished object is a Musselburgh by Isolde Teague. I used yarn that I got on a little anniversary trip. It was only like 20 minutes away, maybe more like a staycation with my husband. We went to a yarn shop near us, and I picked out some yarn and decided to make a Musselburgh. And I did the adult medium size, used 3.5mm needles, and I used this yarn, which is Mammoth Uruguay Marla in Poolside. I loved this yarn as soon as I saw it. It has such beautiful variegation with the maroons and pinks and yellows and blues and teals. Love it. I knew that I probably wouldn't have enough to do the full Musselburgh construction, which is going from the end of one crown all the way to the other side and then folding it up inside itself. I wanted more of a simple hat, and also I just didn't want to do that much knitting. I mentioned this before, that the first time I made a Musselburgh, I didn't love the process. It felt like way too much knitting, and as I mentioned in my 2025 Make 9 planning video, I am really enjoying projects that are engaging, and I'm just not digging miles of stockinette right now, and I'm sure I will in the future, but right now I knew that I was not in the mood to do a full length, so much stockinette hat. And I didn't have enough yarn for it anyways, and I didn't want to up my needle size because this is already kind of a thin fabric. I can see through it. I don't know if you can with the camera. But anyways, I liked the gauge where I was at, so it's just one layer, and then I did do a folded brim with just a 1x1 rib. And I was trying to figure out how to do that turning row that you do at the bottom here so that the hat just automatically folds naturally. And I know how to do it from the bottom up. I think you do a purl row and then that will make the brim flip up. But because this is worked top down, I wasn't sure how to do that. So Reddit came to my rescue. So I did one row of slip one stitch with the yarn in back and then purl one, and that made it so that it just kind of like naturally folds over. It's kind of hard to show. And so then I'm not getting like weird, you can't see the reverse stockinette side. It just makes a clean edge for folding up here. So Reddit to the rescue on that. The way I figured out how to make this the perfect length that I wanted was I measured my other Musselburgh hat in its folded form and saw that it was 10 inches unfolded, not all the way, just in its half folded form. So I knew I wanted my whole hat unfolded to be 10 inches. And I knew I wanted a 2.25 inch brim. So I knit this hat until I hit 7 3/4 inches and then did 2 1/4 inches for the brim. And when I finished it, it was still a little bit short and I was really worried, but this yarn is superwash, so it blocked out beautifully. I was able to stretch it to the 10 inches that I wanted, and I think it turned out really great. Let me try it on for you. So I don't like a ton of height on my hats, but I do like a little bit, so it's not like super close to my head. So I think I got the perfect medium for me. I really like how the brim turned out. I absolutely love the colors. I was wondering how the colors would do with my hair, but man, it just brings me so much joy that I don't even care. But it did turn out to be good colors anyways. And I'll always associate this hat with our little anniversary getaway and picking out the yarn. I will say that this is the most expensive skein of yarn I have ever bought. It was almost $40 for one skein, but also this company is really cool in that they are a non-profit organization that bring work to Uruguayan women. And I have the tag right here, and they say that there's no two identical skeins, each one is unique, and they have even who it was made by and where it was made by in Uruguay, which I think is really cool. So obviously I would love to support a business like that, and if it's a little bit more money, that is okay. But I wanted to make sure that I was making something special out of it and something that I would wear often, and I've already gotten wear out of this. We had a snowstorm last weekend, so yeah, I was able to wear this and it was perfect. I love that it's thinner and I won't get too warm if I'm doing extreme sports like sledding with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. So I think it's perfect for that, and also just perfect to wear inside because it is a thin layer. I won't get too warm inside as I wear it. So yeah, it's just a cozy, simple hat that shows off the yarn, and that's what I wanted. I forgot to mention that this is a DK weight, so it was my first time doing the Musselburgh with a DK weight yarn, and I enjoyed that process so much more. It was so much less knitting. I really liked that. So I think in the future with Musselburgh hats, because obviously this is a great pattern that can be used with any fingering or DK weight yarn, maybe even up to a worsted, or maybe just DK, I'm not sure. But I really like that it's top down, so then you can use all of the yarn that you have, or you can customize the brim however you want and decide later on that. You don't have to decide right away as you're casting on. So I think it's a great pattern for that. But I also think I enjoyed knitting the DK version so much more than the fingering weight that I think I'll just stick with the DK in the future. And overall, very happy with this hat, and I will definitely be wearing it for the rest of this winter. I started this on January 7th and ended it on January 14th, so it took me just 1 week and couldn't be happier with it. The last finished object that I have is the Tuisku by Rania Hakoleto, and it is this basic bulky weight 1x1 rib hat. And this is actually a gift knit, and I made a size 2, and I used a K+C knit and crochet roving in the color Dusty Pink. And it's just a simple and beautiful pattern, 1x1 rib. It's got a tall crown on the top, and it also has a tubular cast on, which is not my best work. I really struggled with the tubular cast on this. I've only done the tubular cast on once, and it was for the button band for the book club cardigan, and obviously that's a very small thing to do a tubular cast on with, and you can't really tell where it is because it kind of folds under itself because it's a double knit button band. So I didn't have issue with that, but doing this many stitches, even in a bulky pattern, it's not even that many stitches, but I kept twisting when I would try to join in the round, and I could not figure out how to do a tubular cast on and not twist my stitches. And I admittedly didn't spend a lot of time researching how to do it. I know that there's more videos I probably could have found, but I came across a Reddit article. Reddit is kind of saving my knitting in the past couple weeks. Someone mentioned when you're doing a tubular cast on, just knit back and forth for 2 rows, and then at the end just sew together the beginning of the round with the tail end. And I did that with this, and it worked out really well, and I was able to not twist my stitches and just cast it on, knit 1 row, knit back to that tail end, and then joined in the round after that. So it worked out pretty okay. I think I could have done it a little bit neater. You can kind of tell where I joined it in the round and like sewed it together right here. And honestly, the tubular cast on is just not the prettiest anyways. There's some kind of wonky looking spots like right here, but that's okay. I know I will get better as I keep practicing, and I really wanted to challenge myself to do it because after a couple times of trying to do this, I thought I'm just gonna do a long tail cast on. But I know that I won't get any better at the tubular cast on if I keep avoiding it, so proud of myself that I actually did it. I used a 5.5 millimeter for this hat, and let me try it on for you. This is a gift for someone else, as I mentioned, so this isn't my preferred style, but putting it on, maybe I could get behind it because I think it's cute. I will say that I don't love this yarn. It is a little bit dry feeling and scratchy. It's 100% wool, but yeah, I don't super love this yarn. I do have a sweater out of this yarn, and it's one of the first sweaters that I made, and I just don't wear it that often. But I think it's really good for a hat. I don't find it itchy at all. It just feels a little bit dry. Maybe it's just because I was knitting with the superwash yarn for this, and this feels just so soft and luxurious, and this one feels more like a hardy dry wool. I don't know. Not my favorite, but I think it's great for a hat. It's very warm with it being bulky weight and then folded over on the end here. So I think it will make for a good gift, and I think the recipient will really love it. She is into taller hats, so I think it will hopefully be received well. I forgot to mention that this pattern is from the Lakeside Stitches book by Rania Hakoleto. I will be making a lot of patterns from this book. Just warning you now. I forgot to write down the dates for when I started this and ended it, but I knit this in 3 or 4 days. It was so quick, and I think if I would have sat down and knit it from start to finish, it would have taken me no more than 2 hours. So very good for a gift knit, very cute and simple, and I think would appeal to a lot of people. So yeah, very happy with this. Shall we get into some whips? This next one has been a labor of love the past 2 weeks. If you follow me on Instagram, I have posted a lot of updates on this sweater. It's been a journey. I'm making the Arctic Light sweater by Veronica Lindbergh of Kika. I'm making a size large. I'm using a 5mm for the body. I used a 3.25mm for the collar, and I'm using 4mm for the sleeve and body ribbing. I'm using Drops Kid Silk and Drops Lima, both in the color Chalk. And I did do the folded down the collar before I started on the body. She recommends in the pattern to sew it down later, but I am not about sewing, so I just knit it together before starting the body. So when I showed this last time, I had done maybe a couple rows after joining under the underarms, and I made a ton of progress for a week and a half, to the point where I had finished the body. I had gone a lot of ways down a sleeve, and then I tried it on, and the armhole depth was ridiculous. It was so low, it almost went down to my waist, and I thought that I could get away with it because it would just be an oversized sweater, but I just didn't like how it was making the sleeves have all this extra fabric that was gathering, and I didn't like how the sleeves looked like bat wings. I just wasn't liking it. And I think in another sweater, maybe I would have been fine to leave it and just expect that it's going to be a large, not super fitting sweater. The sweater already doesn't have short rows, so I knew that it wouldn't have an immaculate fit. But I have also been dreaming about making this sweater for so long. It's one of the sweaters that I have always wanted to make very early on when I started knitting, and I just really wanted to do the sweater justice as much as I could, and I knew that if I finished it and left it how it was, I would be unhappy with it, and that's not what I wanted to feel after looking forward to making this sweater for over a year. So I also think I made the body a little bit too short, and I know that Drops Lima does grow a little bit, so I was hoping I would get more length, but I was still worried about that, and I really wanted it to be longer. So after talking to some friends and my mom and husband and everything, they all echoed my own thoughts of, you know, just rock it and redo it, because you're gonna want the finished product more to fit you better, and it's worth doing it now than regretting it. So I ripped back like 2 weeks of knitting. I ripped back the whole sleeve, ripped back the body all the way until the yoke, and I don't regret it at all. I then joined under the underarm for a size medium, which is probably 2 inches higher than the size large, which is kind of crazy. And with the size medium, I have an armhole depth that is similar to my other oversized sweaters. So I even think, and where you split for sleeves is the same for a small and a medium. And even then, I feel like would be a deep armhole depth for a size small. I'm not sure because I haven't knit a size small in many garments at all, but that's my feeling. So this pattern is gorgeous. I absolutely love the cables and how it looks. But as for fit, I don't know what Veronica Lindbergh was thinking. I don't know what she was going for. I think that this sweater may require some finagling with your personal fit relating to the armhole depth. And I know some people have also added short rows to their sweaters. and I did not, but I know some people have to make it more comfortable. So if you're planning on knitting this, just keep that in mind. I strongly recommend making sure that you like your armhole depth when you split for sleeves or right before you split for sleeves, because I wish I would have checked that more. I did the preliminary check after I split for sleeves and I thought, oh, it's fine, like it's a little deep, but it's okay. And I think I should have checked more often, and so I wouldn't have had to, you know, cut out my tubular cast off and frog so much knitting. So that is my recommendation to you. I know there's a couple people that have mentioned that they're also making this or about to cast on. So just decide if you want to put in short rows. There are instructions for that on Ravelry project pages. If you want a regular armhole depth or a deep armhole depth, that's something to consider right around when you're finishing the yoke. And I think even then, even though I fixed my armhole depth and I love it so much more now, I think I still will have the gathering on this area because the sleeves are big. This isn't a compound raglan. You're just increasing every single section, whether it's sleeves or front or back or the other sleeve, you're increasing the same rate. So I think the sleeves still are going to be bigger in proportion to what they need to be, but it's going to be massively better than before with so many inches of armhole depth, like so many inches. So I am so glad that I went back and frogged and restarted, and honestly I have really enjoyed doing this cable pattern. I think it would be different if I hadn't have enjoyed the process and then thought, no, I have to knit this body again in this cable pattern that is hard and I don't like it. That would have been a different story and maybe I would have not frogged it. But I honestly can say that I really enjoy knitting this pattern. It has been so much fun to knit, and I love the gauge that it's at. I don't feel like it's too tight or too hard on my hands. And now that I have knit this entire body twice, I can fly through these rows. I do not have to look at the chart once anymore. I did not look at the chart once after, you know, starting again. And it really becomes intuitive as you do it. I just have a little marker that I move to tell me when I need to do the actual cable row across. And I also have been doing the cables without a cable needle, and which was hard at first because this middle cable is a pretty big one, but by the end I was really impressed with how much it became second nature and intuitive. I just didn't really have to think about it at all. So I'm really happy with that, and it was fun to knit again. It was at the point when I frogged it, I was excited to knit the body again, and I don't think I have ever felt that with a sweater before, where I would be excited to knit it again. So it really did work out for the best that I had to redo it, because I really had a good time with this cable chart again. I am losing stitches as I'm flinging this around. As I've said, I have stopped the body. I did add 2 more inches to the body than last time, so it will be the length that I want. And I have started on the 1x1 ribbing a little bit. It is a twisted rib, which is probably the worst part of this whole sweater, is the almost 3 inches of 1x1 twisted rib, but I think it will look fantastic, so it's worth it. And I won't have to rip it out and redo it, hopefully. Hopefully I didn't make it too long. That's my fear, is that I made this too long and then I'm gonna block it and then I'll be like, it's too long, I should take some out. No, at that point I wouldn't take it out and I would just deal with the long sweater because I'm not ripping this back anymore. So yeah, just have to do the ribbing and then start on the sleeves again. I need to figure out where I should start the decreasing for the sleeves, because Veronica Lindbergh has mentioned in a lot of her YouTube posts and things that she likes a long sleeve, and I do not like a long sleeve. like in my shirt right now, these are folded. I also have short arms. So I think I might start the decreases right away, especially because the sleeves are looking already big. I'm thinking I will do that. I am loving the fabric and the fit right now, as I have mentioned, so it was definitely worth all of the grief that it gave me. And I was able to knit a ton this weekend and made up, you know, 10 days of work in just 3 days. Thank you to my injured back and my husband for doing most of the housework and stuff with the kids. It was very nice of him. So this is my Christmas cast on, and it has now been on the needles for 3 weeks and 5 days. I've got 2 more whips to show you. They'll be pretty quick because I don't have a ton of progress to show you. The first one is the Woolly Mammoth Cowl by Mary P. Hunt. There is only one size for this pattern, and you do a 3.25 millimeter for the ribbing, 3.75 for the colorwork, and I'm using Juniper Moon Farms. Maybe I'll show you the yarn balls. In mahogany and pearl. This is a sport weight wool yarn. And I have a marker in here for where I was last time I showed you. So there's the marker. So I've made a bit of progress. I've completed a rhino. I think that's a rhino. Does that look like a rhino to you? I was trying to decide, is it a baby elephant or is it a rhino? I think it's a rhino. And then I have just started up here on some trees, and then I'm trying to find the part where I think this is going to be the woolly mammoth foot. I'm not sure. I haven't been working on this a ton because the Arctic light sweater and my hats were a little bit priority, but I'm hoping to work on this a bit more. This will become my downstairs knitting, or as you know, this will be my knitting when my boys are playing and they don't need me, and I'll pick it up and do a couple stitches here and there. It's obviously not mindless at all, so it will be slow whenever I do pick it up, and probably most of my time will be like counting the stitches to make sure I'm starting at the right point in the chart, but I'll just chip away at it slowly. There's no rush for this. As I mentioned, this is not going to be something that I'm going to wear. I am making this sort of like a tapestry, but I will be framing it and using it as decor in my living room. I love woolly mammoths so much, and I thought it would be fun to have that displayed as something I've made and something that my boys can't destroy, because they certainly would with a pillowcase cover or a blanket or anything like that. So I am excited to have that, and so I can display it. Our living room has lots of browns and blacks and earthy tones, so I think it will go really well in there. It is not the easiest colorwork chart. It is a very long colorwork chart, and you repeat it twice, so the front of the cowl and the back of the cowl is the same. Obviously I'll only be showing the front of it because it will be folded in half in the frame, but it is hard to keep track. It's not like a colorwork sock when you're just repeating a motif that's only 16 stitches long. This is a lot of stitches around and a lot to keep track of. And luckily she does break up the chart that there's the beginning and end of it, and there's also a midpoint, so you can digest it into 4 sections around the entire cowl, which I have done. So I do have 4 markers to kind of keep me on track, but it still is not intuitive, and I can't really tell what's going on because it is such a detailed colorwork pattern, and there's random spots everywhere, you know, to help the floats, help you not catch as many floats. So that part is difficult. And then also, even with the random spots so that you don't have to catch floats, I am still having to catch floats constantly. And so for that, I would say this isn't a really beginner-friendly colorwork project. You definitely need a little bit of experience or just be very ambitious when you do this cowl, because I have to catch floats a lot. And I am a person that barely catches floats when I need to. I will measure an inch, and the stitch that is more than an inch, then I will cast floats. So most of my floats are an inch long because I want to get as far as I can. And even then, I'm still having to catch a lot of floats, which it's going to be worth it and it's going to be beautiful. And I knew going in that this would be a long-term whip and require a lot of concentration. But I do have to keep that in mind when I pick it up, to be more patient, to be more slow, and try to enjoy the journey, even if it's a little bit challenging. I started this on December 27th, and I have been working on it for 3 weeks and 3 days. So I'll go ahead and move that marker up, and we'll see where I'm at next time. My last work in progress is another gift knit. It's my husband's birthday in a couple months, and I want to surprise him with some socks. He loves wearing socks, and I haven't really made him any socks. I did make some other socks, and they ended up being too big, so I gave them to him, and he's been wearing them every single night, except when he has to wash them. So I thought that I would make him some more socks because I think he'll wear them. So I am making another pair from this Joyful Colorwork Socks by Charlotte Stone. She has a pattern in here called Fintastic Fish, and my husband loves fish. He has always had fish. We have some guppies. We used to have a lot of goldfish and even some other fish. We've just always had fish, and he loves fishing, and anyways, fish are his thing. So I thought it would be fun to make him some fish socks. And I am going with a little bit more of a muted color palette because I think that's what he would like more. And he really loves blues. So I am going to make with the main color, I am using this Cascade Heritage in Riviera Heather, which is a gorgeous color of blue. Like, I think I might make a sweater out of this someday of the same color, because oh my goodness, this is like one of my favorite colors of blue. And I actually was really sneaky and bought this on our anniversary trip when we went to that yarn store, and I was acting like I was gonna make these socks for myself, and I was like, which blue do you like better? And he's like, oh, I really like this one. So he's going to be surprised when he gets a pair of socks with yarn that he technically picked out, but thought it was for me. And for the contrast color, I'm using this mystery gray that I found in my stash. And hopefully the contrast will be okay. I have done the trick where you take a picture of both yarns in black and white to see if they have enough contrast, and it looks like they do, and I don't think he'll mind if it's not super contrasty. I am simplifying the pattern a little bit in that I am not going to be doing the contrasting heel and toe or the cuff. There's a little bit of the contrasting color at the cuff here. So I am just going to be doing this colorwork portion in the gray, and then the rest of the sock will just be in the blue. I think that will look the best for him, and also make the experience easier for me. Sometimes I just want to knit the rest of the sock and not have to worry about changing colors. So that's what I'm doing. I should show you my progress now that I have yapped on long enough. I have only done the cuff. So I just have a tiny little cuff. I did 1 inch of 1x1 ribbing. And then I have increased the stitches for the colorwork chart, and I'm just ready to start on the colorwork chart. But I can only work on these when he's at work, and it's been a 3-day weekend, so I haven't worked on these in days. I am doing a size 3 for him, so that's a 72 stitch cast on for socks, and I think it will fit him well. I still need to figure out how long to make the foot, so I'll need to do some calculations of the socks that he wears from me and, you know, go from there to see how long I need to make it. But I'm also not afraid to go back and frog if it doesn't fit him when he tries them on his birthday. I think frogging the Arctic Light sweater taught me a lot, that it taught me not to be afraid of frogging things, and that it is worth it to get the fit that you want. So I started these on January 17th, and so they've only been on my needles for 4 days. We'll see how far I get in the next couple of weeks. That was a lot of projects. If you were here at the end, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. You guys are the real MVPs and the real watchers. I so appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already and want to see more videos from me. You can also find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Savan Knits. Feel free to send me a message on there. My email is also in the description box below. I hope that you guys are finding joy in what you are making, and I will see you next time. Bye.